Welcome to Slayerfest 98. I'm your host, Ian Carlos Crawford, and joining me to talk about the first two episodes of Hawkeye, I have writer of Nubia and the Amazons,
Stephanie Williams,
author of Surrender Your Sons,
Adam Sass,
and poet and doctor,
Kimberly Ann Southwick.
Hi, everyone!
Hold on.
Hi, Dr. Poet, love it.
Always gotta throw the doctor in there.
I love it. No, it's great.
So Adam and Stephanie normally co-host the Marvel episodes, but today they're here to almost pass the baton over to Kim, who will be hosting the rest of the Hawkeye episodes. Because
Marvel.
Yes, because Steph and Adam are very booked and busy, which is a great reason for them not to be able to. But yeah, we're here to talk about the first two episodes that dropped today. So Jesus Christ, thank you all for watching them in one day so we didn't have to try to record on Thanksgiving or something. I guess I'll ask everyone, what was your reaction after you finished the two episodes? Adam, you can go first.
So I don't mean this in a bad way. This felt like I got major Netflix Marvel vibes off this show.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else felt that. I felt like big time Netflix off of this. Maybe it's because it was all of those ones were set in New York City, and they all very much directly were in communication with the attack on New York. But I was kind of, it made me a little nostalgic for season one Jessica Jones, season one Daredevil, where it was all that sort of low-key fallout New York City, kind of gritty, kind of vaguely mafioso-ish, New York City. And I had a good time. I think we were talking beforehand how I think it was a really strong choice to make this sort of like a ho holiday kind of show, because I don't know if it would have half the charm it has without if it was in a neutral setting. So I think it really just kind of takes everything from an 8 to a 9, I think, on this. So I had a really good time. I think it was also a really smart move to draw two episodes at once. I feel like Falcon and Winter Soldier could have really benefited from
that. Stephanie, what do you think?
Pleasantly surprised. Hawkeye is just a character I've always been indifferent to, even in the comics. Yeah. So to find myself actually being like, you know what, for a guy who put on a suit and was just, killing folks just for the fuck of it, I'm ready to tolerate you for another 4 episodes?
Yeah, 4.
So it worked, and I'm happy that it did, because it would really suck to have to talk about this and then hated it. So right. Kudos to Hawkeye, the first 2 episodes, for setting enough up for me to want to tune in for 3.
That's right. Kim, what'd you think?
Yeah, I loved how it was super New York. I loved how it was super Christmas, things that have maybe already been mentioned already. I like how it kind of got right to the action. There's a little bit of here's a little backstory, but even the backstory is action-packed. It was just fun to watch, maybe because of that. The actress who plays Kate Bishop is the actress who plays Emily Dickinson in Apple Plus's Dickinson, and she's my favorite. / that show is I'm obsessed with it right now, so that was really exciting. I forgot it was her when I sat down to watch today, so I was like, ooh. And I love how it's okay. You can still watch and enjoy this if you know nothing like me, and or forget so many things. I'm like, wait, I really needed that flashback. Thank you.
It's funny. I was wondering, because I know you love her on Dickinson. I was wondering, how you would feel about her on this versus that. Is it kind of she's pretty charming, right?
It's one of those things where she's very much the same person, even though she's playing a totally different character. Mm-hmm. I feel like Kat Dennings does that. Yeah. She's just always Kat Dennings. Yeah, mm-hmm. I feel like this actress it's a different thing, but she's got that thing that carries across. And I thought that it was just a great casting based on that.
Yeah, so I actually And I'm not sure if it's because, so I had work and I had to eat and then I had to like rush while I like just finished. And then, hi, I'm recording without my mic today because we had a million issues with me trying to record with my mic. I felt the second episode a little bit like dragged for me.
In the beginning, I thought so too. Yeah, but like not too much.
I found her very charming though. Like I'm excited for if Jeremy Renner is like kind of like done after this for her to be our Hawkeye. Like I thought she was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she also felt like she felt like very Young Avengers to me, and that was nice. Like it was like she was charming and light, even when she's, you know, getting like the shit kicked out of her and she is scared when like Hawkeye saves her at the end. Like she was still very like lighthearted. And Adam, I know you'll know this, and Kim too, it like lent itself to like my Buffy taste of like loving that kind of hero.
Yeah, she was a real like Slayerette. Like she was like a real potential. This was a strong showing for Miss Haley. I think like I think she has the right vibe. I think the MCU is getting into this place where like you as a performer will fit best into the MCU if you're sort of earnest, but you have this wry sort of I float 6 inches above the story a little bit vibe. You can sort of wink a bit. There's a little bit of a, you know, I'm a little too cool for what's going on right now. Like you kind of have to call attention to like the silliness sometimes. That's really often tapped into. I think ever since they figured out how to make Thor work, that's kind of been their go-to medicine for a lot of these things. So I think it was great.
That's so funny you mentioned making Thor work. I was thinking when they're in that like little convenience store or whatever, and it's like, you know, I don't know, they're carrying the archery stuff or whatever, and they're just clearly like kind of a little bit out of place. I was thinking of like Thor, and when he's like, you know, new to Earth or whatever. It wasn't, of course, exactly that, but that whole like misplaced person thing. I don't know. I thought that worked. That worked well. It did give me that vibe. So that's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah, sort of going from the beginning of the show onward, I think Ian, you and Steph too, I know, like we all kind of talked about like how much we really, really loved the WandaVision, Monica coming back from the blip scene, like that sort of as a cold open, and I feel like this cold open did this really, really, like really strongly. Like we're gonna drop you sort of into this chaos moment of something that's familiar.
I actually, like, for me, it was like, I felt bad. Like, you know, it was like, oh, this, like, very wealthy family. And I feel like that building they used as her penthouse was even a building that I worked near when I lived in New York. But I was like, at first it was like, I don't care about this. And then immediately I felt bad for this, you know, like, little girl losing her father. And, like, when the alien's looking right at her and Hawkeye shoots it, I was like, okay, this is a cool moment. And I thought it really worked to also place her in there, because I feel like the MCU is a little bit running into this problem, like with Eternals, where they had to explain the reason they didn't help with Thanos, or like what was like kind of have to like what was going on when, and you kind of got to do that a lot now. And I agree with you, Adam. They did it so well, and it was like a perfect reason for her to take up archery without her like actually meeting him, or like, you know, he didn't see her, she just saw him, and that would make sense for, you know, a child seeing Hawkeye. And I thought that was a really great setup. Yeah.
And it gave us the first of many amazing Vera Farmiga wigs. MCU has a wig box, and they're like, go get a wig. And
bring out the box.
It's very like The Simpsons, where they go to Knoxville in the World's Fair, and there's like a wigs in the Sun Sphere, like, and they all just like pull out these just pom-pom wigs, like, and it just was. And it's very like Hope Van Dyne movie one. Like there's just before they finally just go, fuck it, do her real hair.
Yeah.
Like for some reason they all start them out on these wigs, like, and then they're like finally like just Evangeline Lilly's hair, just do the real hair.
Yeah, just so Steph, I am gonna assume you've read the Matt Fraction Hawkeye run.
I have, but it's been a long time, maybe 4 years ago.
So yeah, I had only I had only read the first trade, like when it came out, which was like a long time ago. But I've been rereading. I bought Barnes & Noble, like the thick, it's like the saga of Kate Bishop and Clint Barton, and it's kind of like his whole run with like some extras. And I've been reading it, and it was so funny because I'm about like halfway through, and there was so much that I saw in these first episodes that were like literally pulled from that run, right?
And so like that's been the thing too, because even the opening credits is just all of, you could see David Aja all over that. And that's been the whole thing of like, hey, hope he's getting paid for this. But it's and I think that's another reason why I was pleasantly surprised, because a lot of times like these movies won't do the thing where they just pull directly from the comics, because like it's already there, it's written, like you're making this way harder for yourself. Just, cherry pick some things, build around it, and let's see what happens. And because they do that, like it works.
Yeah, and there's a way it wouldn't work, but it did work here, I thought, right?
And
I kind of liked, they switched up some stuff. Like, I think like Kate Bishop, when she's like, this is bad at the beginning, when the guy finds her with the bell, and that's how like every issue of Hawkeye started, with like Clint being like, this is bad. And like the switcheroo with like the dog, the dog helps her instead of helping Clint. I don't know.
It's little tweaks. I mean, it works.
Yeah, right? It really did. And I thought it captured the like vibe of the comic really well too, right?
Again, yes. That's why I hope like again, David Aja, Matt Fraction, all of them are like getting some type of residual check or something, because they didn't have to do a lot of heavy lifting. And for a series like this and with a character like Hawkeye, that was to their benefit.
Yes, because I will say I felt like kind of nothing about him in the comics until I read, like literally Matt Fraction's run was like what made me be like, oh, do I have a crush on Hawkeye? Like it was like he wrote a guy that was like intriguing and a guy that like is cool, and I just like really liked, and David Ahab like drew a version of Hawkeye that was like a hot guy. So we get the opening. Her father dies in the alien attack. I was charmed by that first scene of her wanting to hit the bell, even though I was like, ooh, if someone was in that building, they might have died. Jim and Adam, I'm curious, like, what you two thought, like, without having read the comics, like, did like the vibe do it for you?
I mean, so what helped it click was weirdly the holiday thing, because it connected something that I guess maybe never super gelled with me, with Jeremy Renner, with Hawkeye, with any of that, was he's Bruce Willis, he's John McClane, he's Die Hard. Like it's kind of that sort of thing where it's like, oh, he's trying to get back to his family for this thing, and they've got this other thing, and I will say, like, so like the vibe really, really worked for me. But we'll get to certain parts when we get to it. But like Linda Cardellini, I really, does she want to be doing more in the show? Because I feel like I was like, oh great. I feel like
let's talk about that. I love her so much,
and my husband and I are always just like, man, give this character a name or something. And then she wasn't even in the city. Like she was at home, running a dish rag over the counter back and forth in space work. And I was like, oh man, they got the whole Hawkeye show and they still don't have time to get to this.
She came into that when they did the first couple episodes or whatever. They called her up and they were like, "Hey, Linda, like we're gonna do this show. Do you want to be on board?" And she said, absolutely, because her agent sold it to her as, yeah, they're gonna have you do a little bit more. You're gonna have a time to shine on the screen by yourself. Unbeknownst to her, though, on the screen by herself is because Hawkeye, like Jeremy Renner and the kids, are in New York taking up a play while she is at home in her rustic southern home, getting ready for Christmas.
It's like, oh, so I'm going to be in the city. I'm going to be watching that Broadway show. It's like, you are going to be prepping the gingerbread houses for this episode 2, where you will be doing the gingerbread houses
with your bangs, because they let her keep her bangs.
She looks great. She looks great.
She does.
I was gagged. I was really like, she is. This whole operation was set up for a Jamie Lee Curtis True Lies sort of thing, where she is thrust against her will into a thrilling adventure that she would
never
been able to.
She would nail that.
She would nail it. We're all dying for it.
You know
and
what?
Maybe it's
but it
coming.
couldn't be Jeremy Renner. It would have to be a different Hawkeye, unfortunately.
It really is wild that, like, she wasn't in any previews. I didn't think I was like, are they just going to say he's divorced now? Because, like, she's not in the show. She was.
No, I'm telling you, they're going to do the, like, John Hughes movie thing to her, where it's like a Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, where they just keep coming back to the wife who's like, I wonder if he's going to make it on time for the holiday. Like, wow, like, but then they expanded the canon to know that, like, she knew all about Ronan. She knew all about him cutting down these gangs.
Well, that was their pillow talk after she came back. He told her tales of Ronan.
The whole thing with the Ronan, and even in Endgame, I think everybody was just like, now what is fighting the Yakuza have to do with your loss and everything? And then you get to this thing where, like, the Ronin costume just dooms Kate Bishop currently, and then dooms whoever has the outfit next. And I was like, well, this Ronin thing, like, really didn't need to even, like, he really did not need to do
this. So Kim, as someone who, like, recently watched all of it, was that a little bit, like, did you remember, like, what Ronin was?
When they did the little flashback, I did.
Fair. Fair. You did say at the beginning that the flashbacks helped you, right?
Yeah, and I felt like this when I was watching one of the other TV shows that came out this past year, where I was like, man, do I need to rewatch all of this? Not the shows, but all the movies again, or at least, like, the, more recent ones. Because
you're good.
So much happens.
You could YouTube the scene. There's one scene where he's just like John Wick on for some reason, and then he's just back at it with this Hawkeye thing. That's my one thing that I'm conflicted upon, is that I'm hoping that they're going to unfold a bit more of just like why, like, because he's like keeping that identity a secret, but everybody knows he's Hawkeye. They're stopping him in the street, but like this one, he had like a double, triple identity, like on top of it.
But okay, I also want us to talk about Rogers the musical.
We must.
Because as someone, love and light, as someone who does not love musicals, I found it to be it was like grating, but felt realistic. Like
it's something they would have actually done, like had like this action in real life. Absolutely. And the little kid who I guess Hawkeye's son says, why is everyone singing and dancing about everything after they walk out? That's you, Ian.
Yes, that is me.
No, I 100% agree. I'm like, they should probably make this musical.
Well, Ian, I think I'm with you, where maybe you and I were in the same situation where I could not tell if that was like accurate to what if I was a musical theater person, I want to know, like, does a musical theater person watch that and go, and musicals are actually way better constructed than this. This is just making fun of us, or if that is actually like channeling it, because I couldn't tell the difference between. Those two. I'm not enough of a musical person.
I mean, I guess the answer would be if you're watching a good musical or a bad musical, but I still think nonetheless it was realistic. I just couldn't tell you whether or not it was a good one or a bad one.
Steph, what's your vote?
I would, in the Broadway industrial complex, if that's even a thing, because what the fuck are y'all singing and dancing about this? People lost their lives. What is this commemoration? I honestly, it made me sick to my stomach. I could not believe that they would do something like that. But this is America, the military industrial complex. Broadway complex, all of it. Just, it was horrendous. No, I thought that the musical was just, it was just, I hate whoever bought tickets for that, because it did not seem like a fun time. I did love that the Hawk had on some Jordans, though. I did appreciate that. Now that I noticed. And those Jordans sold out really quickly because I tried to buy some. So somebody in Marble has a plug.
They had a few bots.
Yes.
Esme clapped when the audience clapped.
That's very cute. I did actually feel bad for him when they like had him zoom, like they like showed that he was like focusing on the Natasha like character.
Yeah.
Like, do they know that she died? Like, everybody knows she died, right?
Right? They have to, right?
Yeah, well,
they know half the people they're talking about passed away, lost their lives to this battle like a few months ago or like a year ago.
So then the little boy is right. Like, why is everybody singing and dancing about this? Like, if anything, it should be like a really serious, hardcore play. And then who knew that Captain America said that he could do that all day? Like, who was there in that bunker that day that Tony and Bucky and Steve got into a fight? Like, who was there? How did they get that info? That was the thing that
I want to know, like, how this I would love to have seen, and I'd love to see like an expanded thing where you see like someone like took it upon themselves to like kind of sell the rights on this, like who's really like someone is a tattletale in all of this, like someone's using all these stories and trickling down and using that.
Well, it wasn't Hawkeye, because he points out that something was ahistorical at one point.
Oh, right, because Ant-Man's there, and he's like, that guy wasn't there. I did like that. Yeah, I did think that was like a very clever thing for them to add in that's like not from the comics, but like makes sense or whatever. I did keep thinking, why didn't their mom go with them? Like, was Linda Cardellini, do we think it was because she's like, was filming the final season of, Kim, what's that show like? Dead to Me. But no, right? Because Marvel pays way more than that show probably does.
With what they're doing right now with all of the different film sets and who's vaccinated or not, like that, they're making it happen. Like if somebody wants to get over there, I think this was a creative decision to
make her
be like, she's not her. It felt very divorced, right?
Yeah, right.
Like I thought it was.
I was wondering because I forget everything. I was like, man, is his wife? I think his wife's alive. Did she come back to life?
It is. It just like it felt a little like weird that the mom wasn't there. I did appreciate
outside of the boundaries of her home and home property. Is this like a ghost situation? Like could she be a ghost? I don't think we've seen her outside of that realm.
Wait, I think she was at the funeral.
Was she at the Tony Stark? Okay.
I think so.
She's just one of the, but Ian, you and I have been to enough happy hours where we know there's your internet friend, and then there's their spouse/boyfriend who's not always up for all this shit all the time.
That's Linda Cardellini.
Just could be very much at home. She just could be not into it. Yeah.
I'm good. I don't need to go to this. I'm going to do my gingerbread houses, do whatever the hell you want.
This is very important.
That is true. I also liked the man asking him for a selfie and him being like, this isn't the right time. So then he asks him again when he's washing his hands. That would probably be me with an Avenger in the bathroom.
It felt like, because he's kind of like the Ringo Starr, where it's like, oh, he's like kind of like soul. He's kind of like a kind of a soul surviving kind of person who's not as famous, but he's he is like there's no it's not the usual publicity hounds of Steve Rogers and Tony Stark are no longer.
And like she I mean, Kate even says he's got a branding problem, and it's true. You're right. It's like he's kind of like the last one standing. So yeah, people know who he is, but like people don't care as much. And I almost felt like that was a joke on like Hawkeye as a character too, right? Because like people don't really care about him as much.
No, absolutely. When she's talking about the branding stuff, I felt like that was Marvel like just poking fun for sure.
Yeah,
in like a meta.
So then we get Kate coming home to her mother, and the ADR in that scene is very weird. I felt like Vera like definitely recorded and they played over. I don't know. It felt weird. I loved her like weird looking supervillain outfit that was like the red flowy gown.
The Heron wardrobe is screaming, and the casting choice is screaming. She has more to do with this,
right? Yeah,
right. There's got it, because we didn't see like what happened to the dad. Like it's all like there could be some holes to fill in there. Like, was she up to something there? What were they arguing about? He just conveniently wasn't there anymore. She's part of this like security, military, industrial thing. Like, it could be very crooked.
I feel like they gave us a very little amount of information over like a long period of time in these 2 episodes, but it was enough that when Kate is tracking Hawkeye's cell phone, we're like, oh, her mom runs that security company. And when she like suddenly is like kicking ass, we're like, oh, she took karate. Like they touch on all the important things. But yeah, the dad, them going to the dad's memorial and the mom being like, oh no, he won't come back. Like as though like they don't really know what happened to him. I felt like that was like definitely a hole, but not one I think is going to go unanswered.
I was wondering that too, because that's what I was about to ask you, Steph. If you thought there was like a character they're trying to reference in her, like my brain could only go to like Madame Mask because she was involved in all this before, but I don't think that's what they would do. I don't know.
I mean, so she crossed my mind too, but for that reason, I was like, maybe not. But then again, Kevin Feige likes to get cute, so maybe.
Yeah. Right.
But she definitely has more to do with everything because she's just way too casual about everybody. Is way too casual about everything because what was the bell that she destroyed? Was that the Liberty Bell?
It was not the Liberty Bell.
Okay, because I initially at first I was like, now she should be in federal jail right now because what's going on? Thank you for that clarification. But okay, she still destroyed an entire clock bell,
a
clock and a bell at the same time. So, and her mom was just too casual about it. But maybe that's how rich people get down. I don't know. She's giving me Chrissy Teigen
vibes. Like a rich
vibes.
person thing where she was like, she was using it as like a teachable moment. She was like very huffy, and she's like, "You can't just go around destroying entire building edifices."
Like, ma'am, do you need a martini?
She's like,
but she's got to be doing more.
You have the following punishment: put on a red dress. Come with me to this charity auction. Like, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, Stephanie, it's funny that you mentioned that because I kept thinking, is it just that she's like a detached rich mom, or is there something else going? Like, I couldn't quite put my finger on because, like, especially like Kim, you have told me of a lot of like people you like grew up around that were like very wealthy, and I was like thinking like, oh, sometimes their parents would kind of just like let them do whatever, but I would imagine even a rich mom would be mad that you like destroyed a tower that they have to pay for.
Well, she does give her that little speech about how she's not, she's had the luxury of being young. She has the luxury of being young, and she has the luxury of being rich. And most people don't get both. And she's had both her whole life, and this is going to come back to bite her. She's not invincible. Like, she does at least like get a good mom speech. It's not really consequences, but like, it's a pretty stern speech considering she's like, just because you think you're invincible, you're not.
Yeah, she cuts up her cards, I guess.
Well, she's not a teenager. She's 22, but whatever.
I was glad we clarified because I kept thinking, if they're going to say she's 15, she really doesn't look 50. But I was glad they said like 22, not, like 14 or 15. But okay, so, we get the little bit of a talk. Stephanie, did you know going into this that that guy was swordsman?
No. So as I've been doing with everything after WandaVision is going in completely blind. And not even like reading anything as far as like who's supposed to show up and anything. Only reason why I knew Echo was supposed to show up is because they made it very clear that they wanted you to know that. But yeah, no, I didn't know. But I was happy to see him because that's interesting.
Right.
Because that's not really a person that I don't feel like maybe he is a routine Hawkeye villain, or maybe more so Avengers if anything. But
he's the one that trained Hawkeye in the comics.
Yeah, right. That is right. So, no, I did not see that coming because I had no idea.
In the comics, he's sometimes both, right? Sometimes he's bad, sometimes he's good.
Yeah, I couldn't. That's the thing. Like, I couldn't remember. Like, I was like, I know who this guy is. You know what? I always get him mixed up with Vision and whatchamacallit's brother or whatever, the guy with the Grim Reaper, because he has the actual sword on his attached to his arm or whatever, and I always get those two mixed up. So forget what I said. I think he's a Agatha Christie of it all. Like sometimes, like
Agatha Christie.
Yes. Wait, Agatha Harkness. I'm sorry, I am tired. You know what I meant. But now I want the Agatha Christie storyline in Agatha Harkness, House of Harkness, House of Boots Down.
That's what we're getting. I feel like because we're getting, jumping slightly ahead to the end of episode 1, you've got this Armand Duquesne character played by Mr. Simon Callow, and clearly up to some sort of like this kind of black market auction. They're all there. Of like they're scavenging again. They're scavenging Avengers compounds again.
It was very weird, right?
Man, what a market, right? That's got to be way stronger than Bitcoin. And way safer than NFTs. I kind of wish that New York would get an alien attack because I'd be out there after it was over to collect things so I can sell them, because this is what these movies have taught me.
It's just you and me scrambling to get any kind of Avenger thing we get. This is Belt. I got it.
All you gotta do is wear a black tuxedo and pretend you're a waitress or a waiter.
Yes.
Also, I loved her suit. I was like, please make her queer. Oh my God, I love that she's like only wearing like pantsuits. Like I loved it. And I liked the gag of all the carers thinking she was another waiter. I thought she looked great in that black suit. Like I genuinely loved that on her. And yeah, so she like sees this, she meets the dog outside for a quick second. Then she sees this other Armand threatening her mother. She learns that her mother's engaged. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. So then she goes down to like find out what's going on. She runs into the auction, and they're auctioning off the Ronin costume and the sword. These like dudes crash through the wall. They're there to steal a watch. So this is what I put together in my notes that ended up being false. But I was like, I feel like maybe that watch was Natasha's, and these guys are sent by Yelena to like get it, and that's why the watch is important. Clearly, I was incorrect, but that was what I was like.
Right, because we got Yelena and Julie Louis-Dreyfus coming into this thing at some point. Oh my goodness! Okay, yeah. So,
because like she was announced very like much early on before Black Widow came out. She was announced as being in this series. God, what the hell's that actress's name?
Florence Pugh,
right? So she was like announced.
It's as if you don't spend a million hours a day on Twitter. How can you? Like, it just that name comes to you like without even thinking about it. If you're on Twitter.
It's like 10 o'clock, Adam.
And a long day. So I kept thinking these guys were going to be related. I mean, I guess they still kind of could be, but that's what I was thinking.
Well, they had accents that sounded Eastern European to me, but I wasn't sure if I was hearing that right. So, they could be that there could be a connection there somehow.
And I appreciated, I mean, like you said, Kim, they kind of already are like, she trained, she's good. So, like, we can accept the fact that, like, all right, she's going to beat up these guys. And she did beat up the guys. Like, I liked that, like, we got enough of, like, 2 lines of dialogue. And that really was all we needed. And I was unclear. Did the dog run off with the watch? Or was the watch still with the stuff?
I thought the dog ran off with the watch, but then we never really saw the watch again.
Yeah. Steph, Adam, any insight to that?
I swear to God, I wasn't even following that thing.
Yeah, no, and I, you know what? And I made a note, and I was like, "That's probably important." But I don't care. Let's talk about this the LARPing situation. That's
my thing. I was like, yeah, I feel like this is one of those things where it's like, oh no, don't worry about it. They will bring it back up.
Right.
They'll
remind me.
Like you're gonna forget about it anyway. Like it's gonna come back.
Her, like, Lower East Side. I don't know if it was Lower East Side, but it gave me that vibe. Lower East Side apartment with like the cute diner seats and like the red vintage fridge. I was like, look at you with all this space in New York and this extremely cute stuff. So
I know.
The watch kind of left my mind after that.
Fair. I did like her like very large like loft apartment. Whenever they show rich people in New York, right? It's just like, oh.
Yeah, seriously.
Like I can't imagine the rent on that apartment alone.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's her like rich person like roughing it,
right?
Making her own bootstraps, like apartment.
She inherited it.
And she's like, oh well, yeah.
I feel like that's what we're supposed to think. She's like roughing it, like, you know, she has her own apartment, but like no, like at one point she's like, oh, I inherited it, so like, not really.
And she's kind of like you said, Adam. She's kind of like, oh, my stuff, and then it's like, it's fine.
I'm more like, oh god, your fridge than she cares.
Yeah. So I do love that she took the dog with her. I mean, we needed to get the dog in. He's a big part of the comics. I like the idea of her, like, her sidekick is this like cute dog that eats pizza. I'm very charmed by that.
It was a cute dog, but I did not need to be traumatized by that whole like dog running into traffic bullshit. Even though I know they'd never just be like here's a dog getting hit by a car, like in Marvel. Like I was still like, I don't know if we needed to take it to this area.
I just knew the dog would be fine.
Well, Steph, right, in the comics it is more he does get hit by that car, and like first issue is like Hawkeye brings him to a hospital and they think the dog's gonna die, and it's like very emotional.
Yeah, because I thought that was gonna happen, and I was like, hey, Disney, what are we doing? I know this is a Christmas situation, and you all love to do traumatic shit anyway, but no, don't do it, please. And they didn't.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, she's gonna watch this dog get hit by a car, and I'm gonna be upset. And I was like, oh, thank God we don't see him get hit. So, God, then what happens after that?
Hawkeye's at the hotel and he sees all the stuff on TV.
Oh, right.
He goes out.
The Ronin costume.
It's Ronin, yeah. Well, everyone does.
And so then she lets the dog. She feeds the dog some pizza. She goes back out. She goes to old Armand's estate and finds him dead.
Monogrammed butterscotch.
Yeah.
Oh yes, and which is important. His monogrammed butterscotch, and then she runs into these like Eastern European tracksuit guys.
What are they called? They have a name. He
calls them the tracksuit mafia. Yeah.
Yeah. I keep accidentally saying trench coat mafia in my head, which is a totally different thing.
Which is weird because, right, Steph, in the comics, they are a character. It's just they're approached differently. They're like the landlords of the building Hawkeye lives in. And they even talk, like they use bro a lot, the way they do in the show. Like that's how they all talk. And they all wear tracksuits. But I mean, we get like a fight scene. I was glad, she held her own. But then there was a lot of them. Then Hawkeye comes in. I thought the like kicker at the end, I did really like it, of him like pulling off her mask and he's like ready to punch her and he's like, wait. And she's like, you're Hawkeye? And he's like, who the hell are you? I thought that was a very good like end beat. What'd you all think of that end beat?
I was glad we had another episode.
Yeah, same.
I feel like they're doing the thing at the end where they're like, and now you gotta wait for the next one.
Yeah, it worked out that they had another episode going for that one. Now, the way that the second episode ended, I was like, okay, I'll wait a week. But the way that first one ended, no, they needed to go directly into the next episode, and I'm glad they did. They must have knew that.
Do you think it was because? Sorry, I want to ask Steph a question, but I guess Adam could answer it too. Do you think it was because like we needed the two of them to interact and they hadn't the whole time?
I think so.
I think so. Well, because I was texting you, Steph, like where I was like, this is really good, but not a whole lot surprising stuff had happened. Like I was just like, oh yeah, I'm going through the motions, and I'm like, we're getting through those trailer beats, and then they're gonna meet up at some point. So it wasn't a wild cliffhanger. It was just they meet, which we know they do.
Steph, did you feel like that you wanted them to meet and then you wanted to see more of them interacting? Like, not just like obviously the people who made the show thought we might want that, but like, is that what you wanted?
Oh yeah, no, I needed that because if they didn't have chemistry or it was going to be like this awkward thing, then to me there was really no point in watching it because like I don't want to really get to know Clint Barton like that by himself. Now Clint Barton with someone else who I would like to get to know, then I can stomach that. Because also to
I agree with that.
Adam's point, if it wasn't set during like this kind of Christmassy holiday time, I think I also would kind of be like, I don't really care that it's Labor Day weekend. Just let's get out of here.
It is New York Fashion Week, and he is there without his wife. Yeah.
So episode 2 opens like right where we left off. I thought their dynamic was pretty good. Like right away, I appreciated, and I liked her being so starstruck by him. Because like we've established, he's like not really the most famous Avenger, but like, you know, he was a big deal to her as a child, clearly. So she would be like, holy shit, this is an Avenger. She brings him back to her place, and like nod to the comics as everyone keeps calling the dog Hawkeye's, and he'll be like, it's not my dog. And he's like, oh, I like your dog. And she's like, it's not my dog. And I did like that when he says that she attracted the tracksuit mafia. She's like a little on the nose, right?
Yeah. She's just got a couple like funny lines in that opening interaction that were just really solidified the fact that like they're gonna have a good rapport.
Yeah.
Like even the stuff I wrote down, it's just not funny on the page, but like I wrote some stuff down like, oh, that was funny, and it was just like funny because like they were interacting and it was like something that she said. So what did I write down? I wrote down, do you think they're the ones who killed my mom's fiance's uncle? Which when she says it is funny, but like
right.
when I write it down, I'm like, oh, that's not really funny, Kim.
It is her, like, she's just very charming.
Yes.
And I imagine that's how she is in Dickinson too, right, Kim?
Oh yeah.
And I even liked that they're like, when he's like, are you positive no one saw you? She's like, positive. You sure? And she's like, sure. And then immediately they're throwing a Molotov cocktail.
So immediate. It's so immediate. It was so good. It was like, I believed her. And I was like, no, wait, it can't be. Like, she was so sure.
Yeah. And like, I think, you know, Adam and Steph, the three of us had to like crawl through Falcon and Winter Soldier. And I think like Falcon and Winter Soldier could have used a little bit more like silly in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a little bit of this kind of shit like would have helped the series. And they tried to do it with Sam and Bucky, but they were just like, most of the time it felt like, do they fucking hate each other? Like, why are we doing this?
Well, Sam and Bucky were both Hawkeye tone. Like, they needed a foil. Yeah. They needed a silly, goofy foil.
Yes, because Hawkeye is your straight man.
Yeah.
And the same thing with both Sam and Bucky. So, wow, you just solved that serious problem. You know what? I think they might have tried to sneak that in with what was it? Captain America Light. What was his name?
Oh yeah,
Jesse Ireland.
But then, like,
I don't know why it was Jesse Ireland. It just felt right, but I know that's not right.
Yeah, but like, but it was like, he was jokey. But in that way that we were like, I don't trust this shit at all. Like, you needed like someone, right? Like, you knew that I was like, well, you're gonna flip out.
Yeah, like someone who's not a murderer.
Right. Like, I was like, you're giving me big murderer vibes. Yeah, just like I can't really relax around Vera Farmiga's character because it's like, oh, I know she's handling everything way too chill. She's like, your apartment burned down.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. What? You need to give your stepfather some slack. Like, I was like, you're handling this too creepily chilly. Yeah, I don't like it. Yeah.
Your apartment burned down. We'll come over for dinner. All right.
Yeah, she's like imperiously swirling this Chardonnay, and she's like, honey, you need to be. I'm like, we are being set up exquisitely for a villainous turn.
Yeah. But so I kept thinking like, oh, I wish these shows had gotten on, like, even Loki with Loki and Sylvie and Kim. I know you did enjoy them. They're their back and forth wasn't like, this is more enjoyable. This is the enjoyable back and forth if we need a like more straightforward plot, right?
Because you got a trope. You got the grumpy old man, and like the little sprite who is still kind of wondery-eyed about the world and their hero. And of course, this is all going to come crashing down at some point when Kate realizes how terrible Hawkeye actually, what a broken man he is.
Yeah. And like, and whatever happens, like Adam said, while her mom's like twirling her wine and is like, whatever that plot is.
She definitely,
because like earlier in the first episode, we saw like some sort of whisper, you know, what you did to the guy who's eventually killed, and and then she's working for the security outfit, and she's sort of like it's
the mom.
The mom, right?
I thought she runs the security outfit.
Right.
Well, yeah, she's running, right? Exactly. I did not mean to demean and minimize her role in this thing. Yeah, she is. She's gonna be. She's gonna be bossing this whole outfit.
She's gonna be girl bossing.
Well, I read the dad.
She's girl bossing. Yeah.
I read the dad from the very beginning of episode 1 that disappeared as like he looked kind of villainy, and then this new guy Jack is like totally villainy, like from the start.
He's like he's almost like cartoonishly villainous. I feel like.
And like that's just obvious, almost in a way that it's like, oh, is he going to turn out not to be a villain because it's so obvious?
Well, he is giving big like Vince Vaughn in a evil stepdad movie. Where it's just like, we just need to understand each other a little more. Like, and then she looks up the newspaper clippings. There's missing women, and then he's involved. He's giving off those vibes.
Yeah.
Just speaking of that, I feel like this part that we're talking about all these other things, and the part in the show we're at, this is the part I think dragged. So I feel like it makes sense that we've kind of wandered away from part. So after the tracksuit mafia shows up, and they go to the aunt's apartment, and then he goes back to his hotel, and then he comes back to the apartment, and then she maybe goes to work at some point. I think that was previously actually, but or after this anyway. But it kind of all gets a little muddled for me here, and it's not really too exciting until he's doing the LARPing.
I will say so the way he gets there is by he like sees the sticker in the fire truck window and he assumes that one of them probably stole his costume, and like that's what happened. So he tracks down this LARPer group. I will say I did love it. I did. I was worried it was going to be a little Big Bang Theory with like, oh, we're nerds. Because a lot of pop culture-y nerd stuff tends to like do nerds bad, where it like is just Big Bang Theory. I thought this was well done. I don't know how the rest of you felt, but like I was like, okay, cool. This isn't just like a total mockery of like people who LARP. It's just like, this is their event, and they're kind of like rolling their eyes at him because he's like refusing to smile. And like, even the woman, when she gives him the armor and she like looks at her friend, and they're just like, oh, this guy, what a boner killer. Like, because he's just being like a grumpy old man.
Because he gives off that energy. He gives off an energy of like, I want to fucking help you.
Yeah, he really does. What'd you guys think of the like LARP? Did you like it, Adam?
I did. I think it was like super cute. I think it was like a bit of business to, get to this thing. I think big stuff I saw you on Twitter talking about, like, it was a nice, like, low stakes thing. And this was a really cute way to like kind of juice up that thing where he's got to get this suit back from him. And it's like, he could just, the screenwriter could just go ahead and be like, oh, I need that back, this sort of thing, meet an alley. Or he could do it this fun way.
Yeah. Oh, wait. So before that, though, I did like them walking through Times Square, which happens right before this. I mean, it was in the trailer, but I do like when she's like, look, that one's you. And he's like, nope, that's Katniss Everdeen.
Yeah.
Which I feel like we've talked about this before on the podcast, Adam. What like pop culture stuff exists in other pop culture stuff. And like, I just like the idea of like, oh, the Hunger Games exists in the MCU. Like,
right.
And wouldn't the battle in New York like kind of hurt the like production of those movies?
That's what I'm saying. Like I was like, like I'm always wondering. I'm like, well, what is the primary source of entertainment in a world where the news is the MCU?
Right? Yeah.
Like, what's at the AMC? Like, is it more of this, or is it just like film Twitter's dream, where it's all just film length episodes of Succession? And I'm part of that. Like, I'm part of I'm like, yes, let's get those adult movies back. But I don't know. I don't know what's playing in the AMC down the street. Type of thing. Is it just more superhero stuff? Just maybe more seriousified?
I was thinking about that too because I don't know if any of you have seen. I saw the Ghostbusters this weekend, which I liked. And there was a trailer for a new Super Pets movie that's coming out from DC, and it stars Superman's dog, voiced by The Rock, which sounds like a Mad Lib sentence. But in the trailer, he makes a joke, and he's like, "I should call myself Iron Man," and winks, and it's a joke. And I'm like, but that doesn't make sense. Why would Superman's dog know who Iron Man is? I know. Then I'm that nerd.
I think this is what happens when you have I think the MCU do. So again, with the DC cinematic universe, it's hardly a universe because it's all independent one-offs and
anything goes.
Anything goes in different tones. You can allow for different versions. It doesn't all have to be the same canonic fitting all into the same thing. But because the MCU just really actively encourages it's all real, it's all one universe. There's a reason why someone has a different face who's wearing the same name, down to that level. So I think it just encourages this really Always Sunny conspiracy theory board level of just so you're saying this, drawing these connections.
Yeah, fair. Stephanie, what do you think of the LARPing scene?
I surprisingly enjoyed it, and the reason why I did is because I thought it was a great character exercise in, hey, put this character in this low stakes, mundane type of situation where it's kind of the inverse of what they would have to do to get this very important thing. And let's see how they go about doing it. And the way that Hawkeye goes about doing it is exactly who they've established his character to be. And I just thought that was just really great writing in that way. I thought it was fun. So for those reasons, I really enjoyed it. And the fact that this black guy took the Ronin suit, it was that is what he used it for, to go LARPing in it. That was his cosplay for the weekend. And I don't know, I just found that really just pure, and I don't know, I enjoyed it because it's Hawkeye LARPing. He is a guy without, he doesn't have any powers, and essentially he kind of is LARPing with the Avengers to a degree. So it worked out.
And I appreciated that the guy too wasn't it wasn't fucking Sheldon from Big Bang. It was this nice dude who really was I'll give you the costume if you let me win, and didn't try to betray him. It was just yep, he made that deal with him and he gave him the costume. I thought that was really, I was very charmed by it.
I agree with what both of you have said. I think at the very end of the scene too, when they have that little action, I feel like Hawkeye grows on us all a little because he's so just genuinely nice to this dude. Yeah. And we really haven't seen him interact with quote unquote fans of his in a way that's caring and nice. If we, excluding Kate, which is a whole other, he's kind of forced into that situation in a way.
Right. Yeah.
So I thought there was a little character growth there, and we needed that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it did endear us to him.
Yeah.
That he was all right. He was annoyed, but he wasn't totally making fun of these nerds, right? He was annoyed, but he wasn't just being an asshole or
it's just something wound up taking a lot longer than he wanted it to take, and he winds up then missing the plane to go home to his family. And we've got this whole trope where, okay, he's going to miss the plane again, and he's going to call his wife and say, oh, it's going to be one more day now. And we're like counting down those days to Christmas.
I will say, I was wondering, I was like, didn't he miss Christmas? Isn't this Christmas? But then Linda Cardellini explicitly says, like, well, you got 5 days. I was like, oh, there we go. There's the countdown. So then Kate, as Adam has mentioned, her mother is like, oh, your apartment burned down. Can you come over for dinner? So she comes over for dinner. Again, the mother is just like so weirdly whatever about like almost everything going on. But Kate ends up challenging her soon-to-be stepdad to a fencing match, which was like very ridiculous. And I love that the mom is just like drinking her wine. Like, you shouldn't do this, but like not really.
It was very.
I don't know. That's kind of me and you, Adam.
Well, I was going to say, but I was like, don't do it. Like it was all of it. But then like also, I'm just like, didn't any of them care that this Armand person was murdered?
Murdered?
No, it didn't matter. He was the fifth one. He was the fifth Armand. 8 of them, right? Or 7.
But there's plenty where those come from. That was my thing. Where I was just like. And I have been watching a lot of Succession, so I was prepared for the billionaires, like thinking of everybody in their lives as like little chess pieces. So I was like, okay, well, this is fine. Like they're not, nobody's too plucked that like a relative and like someone who's like in their orbit every day was like
murdered by a sword.
Right.
Adam, I really like the idea of like, oh, I prepped for Hawkeye. I watched a lot of Succession.
Yeah, well, I think it really gives you that insight into like, no, they just don't care. This is not like a screenwriting mistake. This is legitimately how they would respond, whether or not she's the architect of this murder or not.
Right. Yeah. Even if she's just like an innocent bystander mom, she still doesn't give a shit.
This could very well end up being like she's the rich version of Linda Cardellini, and she's just this mom who's in that background shaking her head.
Just her outfit's a lot more expensive.
Yeah, she's in these silk robes and chopped wigs.
Stephanie, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say it was like very Royal Tenenbaum type of feel to it. Like, what is that movie? I want to see Kate's life because I don't know. Like, I feel like it's leaning in that. Like, that's the movie that was happening before this TV show started.
Right, because like, yeah, even like her challenging her soon-to-be stepdad to like a fencing match still didn't seem that crazy to what was going on.
Yeah, so it seemed like Raul Julia Gomez Adams, like, oh, this just happens sometimes.
Like, oh, this again.
It's like definitely some rich people shit.
Yes. So she does like, she kind of finds out that like, I mean, I don't really know because she like, what is she? She was like, oh, I did that to find it to like, I knew he would parry back and to prove that he was lying. I guess just to like, prove that he was a better swordsman than he said?
Yes.
Which seems like a very weak point to be making. Right.
Now that I think about it, yes, but like her logic in her head is she sees that little monogrammed butterscotch, right?
Right.
And is like, oh God, like he killed him, but I can't say that I knew there was monogrammed butterscotch because then he would know I was there. So, and did she see him pick up that sword during the whole black market auction?
I don't think so. But I mean, we could say that she saw it. Like, right? They could just say that she saw it. But okay, so she has that. She sees the monogrammed butterscotch, which is ridiculous.
Well, he offers it to her.
Right. He offers it to her, which
like dangling the fact that he's the murderer in her face, or again, it's just like there's too many signs pointing to this guy being a villain. I mean, I'm like, I don't know, is he really the murderer? Is he? I think he is though, but like, I feel like it's just like so obvious.
And I mean, Stephanie, you even said Marvel does like to get a little cute with like Agatha. The Agatha we got in WandaVision was like very different from the Agatha from the comics. So even though he's swordsman, who's like sometimes good, sometimes bad.
I mean, it can go one or two ways. They'll go the Agatha Harkness route, or they'll look like, hey, we're gonna head that way, and I'm like, oh, sorry, plot twist, very lazy plot twist. We're gonna actually know he was terrible all along. But I think if anything, I'm just more interested in the mom because she was just very like she just walked off the set of Sex and the City. Like that was her whole vibe, like a Miranda or something. So I wanna know more.
So then I'm not sure if I missed something, but like Hawkeye is suddenly outside waiting to be like captured. What was the like, did I miss the lead up to that or was there not really?
I thought I don't know. Because at first I was like,
jump.
Right?
But it felt like he was like waiting because he even like they put the bag over his head and he even says, "I can see through this bag." Like,
my impression was that he goes there and he like wants them to capture him so that he can go and talk to their boss and be like, "It's not really Ronan. It's this girl that has nothing to do with anything. So just leave her alone. Thanks. Bye. I got to get back to my family for Christmas."
And that probably was his plan. I just don't know why he thought he could do that without any kind of backup.
Right.
But Hawkeye doing shit.
So Kate then calls him a bunch of times. Someone like answers the phone, so she uses whatever Kim already mentioned. She uses whatever security system to track him. I don't quite understand, but like, sure, fine, whatever. She uses her mom's security. I was charmed by him just like almost being exhausted. Like it reminded me of Black Widow in the first Avengers movie when she like answers the phone and she's like, no, I'm getting these guys to reveal everything. And she's like, not actually in danger, but like the goons that have her like think she is. And then she like kicks their ass. I was charmed by that. And him just like breaking his like restraints like, very easily. Also, Adam, I don't know. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say like, I'm just like, honestly, like, I feel like the thing I'm liking, the thing that this is bringing up that I like about Renner in this, where it's like kind of like everything's finally kind of like working a little bit, is that he's giving off these very sleepy action hero vibes of like a Bruce Willis or a Harrison Ford, who's like, man, you are asleep in this movie, but you are still, carrying things from scene to scene. Like, so there is a bit of like, it's grizzled, but to the point of sleepiness.
Yeah. And Adam, I don't know if I was immediately when they're like, I did like when they're like talking to him, he's like, Kate Bishop is not Guy. And they're like, Kate Bishop is Guy. And then she just falls through the skylight. It was very Buffy season 4 freshman when she's like watching the vampires and just falls through the window by accident.
Almost too similar for my liking.
Right? I was like, is this a reference?
I was like, this exact scene, you don't get to just take advantage that your entire audience has forgotten Buffy and you don't get to just lift whole scenes.
Okay, so I'm not just being a crazy Buffy F word, because I was like, this has to be on purpose.
Yeah.
She gets captured, and then Stephanie, do you want to tell everyone who we find out is the boss?
Yes, it is Echo, Miss Maya Lopez.
And she has been an Avenger, right?
Yeah, she was a reluctant Avenger. It was kind of like, okay, so you all need some help. I guess I'll stick around. And she also needed a place to lay her head. So she was like, all right, I need a place to stay. So yeah, I'll join your team. No, it was very much that vibe. She didn't have anywhere to go.
She came around, was it around the time of like New Avengers?
Yes, it was actually in New Avengers. Well, she's before then. So her first appearance is in Daredevil. Fucking Wilson Fisk doing shit. Raised her because he killed her dad. But she didn't know that. And Wilson tells her that Daredevil killed her father, which makes no sense because he's like the same age as her, but she doesn't know that. So that's how she's introduced. And then she finds her way in New Avengers because she is Ronin before Hawkeye ever was.
Oh, right. In my brain, I was thinking it was after, but you're right. It is before. Shit, I forgot that. And is she I might be incorrect. Is she deaf?
Yeah, she's deaf. Okay. So she's deaf and she has photographic reflexes. So the same thing or very similar to what Taskmaster has. So she can watch. Actually, she can watch. She can touch something and feel like the vibrations and like learn through that. So hers is actually, I think, a bit above his skill set. But yeah, she is a really cool character because she is now host of the Phoenix.
Yes, yes. I'm not up to date on all my X-Men stuff, but I did know that just from Twitter, because I follow so many X-Men fans. I will fully admit, don't worry, Adam and Kim, I didn't realize that was her. Like, I was like, when they showed a woman from behind with a braid, I was like, aha, it is Yelena. And then I was like, ooh, that is not that actress. And I literally, Stephanie, I saw you right before we got on that you had tweeted something about Hawkeye, and the person that replied said that they like didn't love it, but they were happy to see their girl at the end. And I was like, wait a minute, was I supposed to know who that was? And then I was like, oh, that was Echo. Okay.
Okay, so we also have like here's what I've been seeing a lot. Like, so we've been seeing also this character Greer we've been talking about. Can anybody shine light on that? Like one of Kate Bishop's friends in episode 1.
Oh,
yeah.
At the very beginning, that's the friend that she's texting.
Right, but someone so like that character is somebody.
Was she
Are
one
they
of
supposed to show up in something? Have they said anything?
Well, so she was in the clock tower scene. Like, she was in the like it was like a friend that was like she was calling and said Greer, and then I seen a lot of tweets being like oh, this is a character named Tigra.
Right. No, and that's why I'm like, I'm wondering, did I miss something? Well, who knows? Again, Kevin Feige likes to be cute, so maybe I'm assuming that she would have to pop up in something, because why have a significant character like that in your thing?
Well, she'll pop up next to Mr. Fantastic, obviously in the coming episode.
Don't start, Adam.
Oh, damn it!
Well, so I think I said this to you, Stephanie, or maybe you, Adam, during WandaVision. The only thing that I'm like annoyed with the Young Avengers already being here is that they are going to have to not be the Young Avengers for that long, because we haven't met that many of the Avengers. So like, they're going to have to be like just the Avengers, right? Like, eventually it's going to be like, they're not the Young Avengers because everyone else is like younger and or the same age as them. So like, if she is supposed to be Tigra, I'm like, oh, but like, she was, the Avengers of the West Coast. She was an Avenger since like the 70s. I don't know. Like, I wish there was a way that like we could have these like 20-year-olds and then be introducing the other characters that are like more like Monica's age. So it's like, oh, they're still like more the adult, and these are still. I mean, that's just the nerd in me that's like, but I want them to be the like younger ones.
It's going to be rangy, but I feel like we're really going to end up with like a lot of 20-somethings.
Yeah. And because they want to keep them in those contracts, right? Because then if you start them when they're like 20, you got them for a way longer. You can sign them to a 40-year contract if you want.
That sounds really
it's kind of like how they all were when this all started.
Yeah, 360 deals all the way around. That is worse than TLC.
Yeah, Adam, what did you think of that end? Just like, did you know who that was supposed to be?
I had heard about Echoes, and and then they were doing the SL. So like, I was like, oh, okay, cool, we're doing that. So yeah. So here's my thing. Like none of these are like gags and goops. So like, I was like sort of like, this just felt like a nice, pleasant holiday action movie than like something where it's like cliffhanger. Like, I don't feel like, and maybe this is just a problem with just being very online and just being like, oh yeah, I heard she was coming out. Like, so.
I mean, that's fair.
It was very good. I'm excited to see this character in action. So.
Yeah, I'm definitely, Kim, what did you think of that, like, kicker at the end? Did it, like, annoy you, or was it, like, fine?
I mean, it just felt like one of these other, like, ooh, we just opened the door, like, let's see who it is. And then now I, being someone who didn't know who Echo was until I just got learned, I was like, oh, okay, now I have to wait till next week to learn all this stuff.
Yeah. But I do agree with what you said earlier, Steph. That was like a cliffhanger where it's like, cool, yeah, next week we're going to get to this, and that's fine. All right. Well, I guess we're at the end here. Stephanie, what was your favorite scene of the 2 episodes?
It was the LARPing scene. It caught me by surprise. And again, Hawkeye is not a character that I necessarily care for. So the fact that they got me to at least be interested in him in that way, I was like, okay, you did your job. So congratulations, writer.
Adam, what was your favorite scene?
I probably enjoyed the introduction in the very first scene. I liked kind of the reestablishing, and I like a good just scene with the point of view. It's like, we're going to show you this whole thing from this point of view. And plus, Vera Farmiga she was the one person I did not realize ahead of time was going to be in this, and so that was a pleasant surprise.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think I did. It's very hard to keep it all going in your head, but especially in my head right now, which is very chaotic. But yeah, no, this was a nice surprise.
Yeah. Kim, what was your favorite scene?
I think I like when Emily Dickinson's kicking ass and the black market auction, like kind of, coming out of nowhere, but also we're not surprised.
All right, that's fair. I think I don't know. I think either the LARPing scene, I'm with you, Steph, or the Rogers musical, because I loved how like god awful it was. Like I just was like, this feels right. But also that might be the bitter non-theater person in me that's like, take that, Hamilton.
I wish I wish for Hulk they didn't like just do the guy in like the jumpsuit. I wish they had done like because if this was Broadway, they would have done a puppeteer. They would have done like a Lion King type of puppeteering where it's obvious, or like some sort of like, there would have been like 4 or 5 puppeteers working a major sort of thing to make that happen.
I will agree with you there. I did think like, oh, this would have been like a ridiculous, like it would have looked stupid, but it would have still been like a big like stage presence.
Yeah, it would have been a giant marionette.
Yeah. What grade do you give these opening episodes, Adam?
I would give them an A. I think this was like really solid.
Ooh, okay. Kim?
I'm gonna go A-. It was a little draggy in the second episode for a little bit.
Stephanie?
I am going to give it an A because, again, expectations in the dirt. And I didn't cut it off. Actually, because I started watching on my iPad and I was like, you know what? I'll move to the TV.
Oh. Okay.
I love that it like pushed you enough to move to the TV. I'm going to give it the lowest grade, but not a bad grade. I give it a B+.
Yeah,
because
that's fair.
A little bit dragged for me that second episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Kim, Steph, and Adam. I'm so glad to have all 3 of you here to like start off the series and the coverage. We'll be covering every episode by episode. And if you like Slayerfest 98, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can find us on social at SlayerFestX98. And you can support us on Patreon, which really helps keep the podcast going. I recently bumped up our bonus episodes to be like 4 to 5 a month. We're covering Harley Quinn, doing a lot of Watch Club. Kim and I just covered WandaVision with my mother, who is 75 and had big opinions. And the support is much appreciated. If you want to follow me, I am at ENXCarlos on all social media platforms. Kim, where can everyone find you?
I'm at Kim Ann Joe South, no extra E's, on Twitter.
And Stephanie, where can everyone find you and buy your book?
All right. Head over to either TikTok, Instagram, or Twitter at Steph_I_Will. Hit up wisesteph.com for links to the things that I'm doing, read the things that I've written, and, all that stuff.
And Adam?
You can find me across all social media platforms at the Adam Sass, and you can buy my young adult novel Surrender Your Sons wherever you buy your books.
Which I will say, Adam, I thought about this today, and I know it's kind of cheating since your book came out in 2020, but it was Surrender Your Sons is hands down my favorite book I read all year. Like hands down,
God.
competition. I wrote a little blurb about it at work that like this is my favorite book I read this year.
Oh my god, a little shelf talker for me. Oh my god, this is great. I love that. No, it's really so for anybody listening. Yeah, Sorority Your Sons is a young adult thriller about a group of queer teens overthrowing a conversion therapy camp on a mysterious island, and there's a murder mystery involved, and it's a good time had by all. But it gets serious, but then it gets funny. Just like MCU shit.
If you don't read it, then I'm going to show up at your house like Green Goblin did while you say your prayers and throw the book at the back of your head.
Please, on the glider.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.